Yo, what is up, guys? It's your girl Bex, and welcome back to the race rundown post weekend in Monza. If you're liking what I do here, quick message to say like, subscribe, follow me on socials, give us a review, give us a comment, all that good stuff, and let's just get straight into it. So, Max has the fastest lap ever to take pole. Lando is in second, Oscar is in third. That is the lineup of the front three for Monza. No Ferrari, and if you listen really carefully, you can hear the Tifosi crying. You can hear their tears hitting the floor. Lawson is the only person on softs at the beginning of the race down in 18th with a 34-point gap between the two McLarens at this stage because of the events of last week. So everybody is focusing on the two McLarens, where they're going to be, what their points will be by the end of the race. And it almost got glossed over that it was a 75th GP at Monza this year, which is super awesome. I love Monza. I always have, partly because I just love Italy, but I love Monza as well. Yeah, one of the best tracks of the year. So anyway, all the grid line up for the formation lap. Now, you would think, Bex, it's a formation lap. What could possibly go wrong on a formation lap? Well, let's flash forward to Hulkenberg. Hulkenberg has to retire the car before we even start due to hydraulic issues. So it's a DNS for one of the green tractors. As we all know, in Monza, there is a 476 metre run down to the first chicane. So the start of the race is always an interesting one. We saw this particular time a battle between Lando and Max. Lando goes on the grass. Max went off the track to gain an advantage. Had to give the place back. Otherwise, he might have got a penalty, but Red Bull told him to give the place back. So already at this point, okay, McLaren fans are like, Jesus freaking Christ, there's a lot going on this weekend already. So then we have Oscar and Leclerc fighting back and forth constantly. Who is going to get the points? We do not know at this point. So Oscar goes around Leclerc, Leclerc goes around Oscar. It's a battle worth watching, okay? And at this point, I just want to take a pause in the race rundown to talk about how shit the F1 camera people are. They were showing us recaps of overtakes when there's live racing going on. I don't care about the recaps of overtakes. Give me the live action shit. That's what I'm here for. Sorry, moving on. Anyway, Antonelli is down in 10th. Max gives the position back, as we know. Leclerc goes around Oscar. Oscar then accuses Leclerc of moving under braking. Bortoletto on Russell. They're arguing. They're argy-bargy back and forth. Max round Lando on lap 4. Lewis up to 7th from 10th on lap 5 with Piastri back through into 3rd on lap 6. Or Ocon and Stroll at this point are then noted for pushing off the track. Hamilton is then up past Bortoletto on lap 7. Bortoletto was absolutely on one this weekend, by the way. Practice starts were investigated. So the starts were on the Astons were investigated after the race. I haven't seen anything news-wise for this yet, but I will, of course, keep you posted in the next episode. A lot of people were talking this weekend about how Ferrari is 2 to 3 seconds faster on the straights than everybody else. You can see that in the fact that Leclerc was just defending Russell left, right and Chelsea, and the only way he could get past him was when he went into the pit. However, it just wasn't enough for them this weekend. A 5-second penalty for Ocon for forcing Stroll off the track. Lap 15, gap to Max in first is 4.2 seconds. Lap to Piastri, 5.801. So Lando had himself in some open air at this point. Lap 18, Antonelli overtakes Yuki. Behrman is in the pits on lap 19 and Tsunoda pits on lap 20. Fernando Alonso, lap 25, suspension on the right front when going over the curb. Sparks everywhere. DNF. A DNF for Fernando Alonso. Lando to put on softs at the end. Max, so they're talking about the tyre strategy. Lando is being suggested to have softs at this point. They're going back and forth all the time. Max has some blistering on his tyres on lap 30. Both the Alpines haven't pitted on lap 32, which was honestly, I don't know what their strategy was this weekend. Lap 34, Leclerc speeding into the pit lane. Supposedly, I think he slowed down just before he got to the pit lane, but by God, it was close. Black and white flag for Gasly for driving erratically, I believe. Verstappen then pits on lap 38, switches to hards, which I thought was a bit odd. Obviously, at the time, I thought it was a bit odd, but then it turned out to be good for him in the end, so fair play. Deployment issues for Carlos Sainz in terms of battery harvesting, etc. Hamilton pits and comes out behind Russell and Ocon, which was just awkward because he spent all that time trying to get past them. Kimi then goes round Gasly, Sainz and Behrman. It was not a good weekend for Carlos. So Carlos ended up colliding with Behrman. Looking at Sainz for causing a collision at that point, he ended up getting a 5 or 10 second penalty for that. He got a penalty for it anyway. Sainz got a penalty for causing a collision. Lap 44, rear tyres of Lando's car are going at this point. They then discuss the tyre strategy, and this is where it all goes wrong. So they say, Lando, what do you feel about pitting for softs? And he says, as long as there's no undercut, then I'm fine with it. And technically there wasn't meant to be an undercut. However, he had a slow stop, which then meant that Oscar got out ahead of him. And he wasn't having it. And McLaren wasn't having it either. So they turned to Oscar and told him to give the place back. Basically like they did in Hungary, where they fucked up the pit stops. And they told Lando to switch. And they just need to get their shit together. Sorry, but they do. He then gave the place back, obviously, because he's playing the team game, and basically got told, give the place back and you can race after that. So at that point, I'm sitting there thinking, well, come on then, lad. If you're good enough, you could just take over again. But he didn't. The pace just wasn't there. So lap 50, Ocon still hasn't pitted. Max ripping into Lando over the radio. It was so funny. He was like, the strategist came over the radio to Max and basically said, Oscar and Lando have switched places. Max then responded with, because he had a slow stop, and just started laughing. And I think that was the vibe that we all had at that point. I've said it once, I'll say it again. As long as a McLaren wins the championship, I don't care which one. Everyone will be like, but all of your stuff is Lando, me. No, I would have Oscar stuff as well. I don't care. As long as it's a McLaren, I'm not bothered. So at that point, they give the place back. It was just ridiculous, to be honest. 19-second gap between Lando and Max at this point. Then a 5-second penalty for Kimi for driving erratically, with the race at Monza being labelled the shortest ever Formula 1 race, which I think it lasted approximately 75 minutes, which was pretty good. I thought there was going to be a safety car at one point, but it's okay. Everything got cleared up, so it's all good. Then we had the race, okay? The race weekend was great. It's Monza, it's always great. Then we have the off-track news. Okay, so we actually have some off-track news this time round, ladies and gentlemen. We have Gasly signing up with Alpine until 2028. The French tractors. How do I feel about Alpine and their new performance? I think that they're the new Williams again, and you cannot change my mind. They started to improve, and yeah, it's not great whatsoever. So he must see something that we all don't see. Which, fair play. Second bit of off-track news / an interesting stat that I just wanted to put out there. Verstappen has now matched Vettel on Red Bull poles. Pretty impressive. Another bit of news is there's still no contracts for either of the Mercedes drivers. And we're 9 races left of the season at this point. In an interview with Sky F1, Toto Wolff has said that they are now getting down to the nitty-gritty details to talk through, and that it's a no-brainer for both of them, apparently. Well, if it's a no-brainer, sir, then why is it not done? Just saying. Apparently there's no doubt in signing the 19-year-old. A lot of people were saying that he's too young and not experienced enough. I think they're more likely to re-sign Kimi than they are George. That's just my opinion. And obviously next year will be the deciding factor with Cadillac joining. I think the likes of Alpine and Williams are going to really struggle, but it is what it is. And also, the final bit of off-track news I want to talk about is the documentary with Keanu Reeves on the Cadillac journey of it all, joining F1. I'm very excited about that. If it's anything like the Brawn documentary, it'll be really good, because he was really good in that. And I love that, yes, he is a celebrity, but he has an actual genuine interest in motor racing, and I love that. They haven't just picked somebody random, like, oh my god, if will.i.am did a documentary on Formula 1, I would, oh god, don't even. It's not even worth the stress and aggravation. It's not even worth the stress and aggravation at that point. But yeah, I'm excited to see that the F1 movie, everything has died down now surrounding that, and the season continues. And it's heating up between the two McLaren drivers, and I, as your podcast host, is stressed. I is stressed. I can't even English properly. I is stressed. I am stressed. There we go. But we'll just have to wait and see, won't we? So, until next time, guys, I've been your girl Bex. This has been the Race Rundown, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace!